Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going on a journey that is going to completely reframe how you look at your morning cup of coffee. I mean, we all drink it, right? We totally rely on it to wake up. But today, we're actually going to explore its biological anatomy. Okay, let's dive into this. Because the central paradox of coffee is, well, it's visual. Every single morning, we interact with these dry, dark, amazing-smelling roasted beans. But that is absolutely not how they start. They actually begin their life as a bright, vibrant fruit growing on a tree. If we were to look at a raw sample, like say a coffee cherry harvested back in February and frozen to preserve it, it would look kind of blackish and shriveled. But tucked inside that unassuming little piece of fruit is literally absolute magic. So how exactly do we get from a fleshy cherry to that dark roasted bean sitting in your grinder? To answer that, we're going to do a biological unboxing. Yeah, we're going to systematically peel away every single anatomical layer of the coffee cherry from the outside in. We'll start with the outer skin, work our way through the mucilage and the parchment, and go all the way down to the prized green bean hidden inside. All right, part 1, the coffee cherry paradox. Let's look at this truly fascinating journey. It's honestly incredible when you think about the sheer number of hands this single piece of fruit changes. From the farmers who hand-pick it at its origin to the processors, the exporters, the roasters, and then finally into your favorite mug, it's a massive global chain. But it's so vital to remember that what we eventually brew and call this magical cup of coffee, it begins as a complex red cherry that completely hides the raw ingredients we actually care about. So to really get why your coffee tastes the way it does, we have to dig deep beneath the surface and explore this intricate biological anatomy. Moving right along to section 2, peeling the outer skin, or the exocarp. The very first thing we encounter is the exocarp. Now, I know that sounds like a super complex botanical term, but it literally just means the outermost skin of the cherry. Just like the skin of an apple or a grape. And this layer is absolutely crucial. It acts as an essential protective barrier, shielding those delicate little green beans growing inside from diseases, pests, and all the harsh elements of nature. But notice how this protective exocarp doesn't just stay the same color forever. It actually serves as a brilliant visual indicator of the fruit's ripeness. It starts out completely green, and then, as the cherry develops and matures on the branch, it transitions into these incredibly vibrant shades of red, or sometimes even yellow. And this brilliantly illustrates a super vital concept for the coffee industry. The exocarp, along with the fleshy pulp right beneath it, are absolutely crucial for determining how a coffee is going to be processed after it's picked. Depending on exactly how much of this skin and pulp is either left on or removed, producers can create distinctly different flavor profiles. This is exactly what leads to those different processing methods you've probably seen on your coffee bags, like the washed process, the natural process, or the honey process. The biology literally dictates the processing. Okay, section 3, the sticky sweet mucilage. Warning, things are about to get very sticky. Because as we peel back that outer skin and the pulp, things get messy. Right beneath those outer layers lies the mucilage. If you were holding a freshly peeled coffee cherry in your bare hands right now, you would immediately notice this stuff. It is incredibly thick, pulpy, and just so sticky. In fact, it's so gooey that if you try to hold a wet coffee bean, it might just slip right out of your fingers. Now, this mucilage is also packed with sugars. It's supposed to be super sweet to the taste. But, biology is funny and human bodies are totally unpredictable. Back in 2017, one coffee professional actually discovered they were completely allergic to this raw mucilage. They tasted it directly from the cherry and boom, their lips immediately started swelling up. No way, right? It's a pretty great little reminder that before it becomes this roasted, comforting morning beverage, coffee is very much a raw, active botanical organism. Pushing past that sticky layer, we hit section 4, parchment and silver skin. We are getting incredibly close to the center now. Underneath that sticky mucilage, we hit the endocarp, which folks in the coffee industry commonly call the parchment. Inside a standard coffee cherry, you'll typically find 2 beans facing each other, and each bean is individually wrapped in its very own endocarp. And here's the cool part. When this layer dries out, it transforms entirely. It loses all that moisture and ends up feeling exactly like a stiff, paper-like or cardboard substance. And because it turns into this really tough, cardboard-like shell, well, we have to figure out a way to get past it. This brings us to a processing step called husking. Husking is basically the physical process used at coffee mills to forcefully crack and remove this dry parchment layer, finally freeing the seeds trapped inside.
Now, what's really interesting here is that even after we've husked away that tough parchment, we still aren't totally finished. There is one absolute final barrier remaining. It's the epidermis, usually referred to as the silver skin. This is an incredibly thin, tiny little layer of skin that is physically stuck directly to the raw green bean itself. I mean, it is just clinging on for dear life.
Which brings us right to the absolute center of the cherry. Section 5, the final roasted bean. So what actually happens to that stubborn little silver skin? Well, it finally gives up during the actual roasting process. When that raw green bean is subjected to the intense heat inside a commercial coffee roaster, that ultra-thin epidermis expands, dries out completely, and physically detaches from the bean. It just flutters away inside the roaster, and at this stage, it actually takes on a new name. Roasters call this discarded silver skin chaff. And here we have the ultimate comparison that summarizes our whole biological unboxing. On one side, you have the raw green bean that we just excavated through the skin, the pulp, the mucilage, and the parchment. This raw, unroasted green bean is the actual ingredient that the entire global coffee industry trades. Then, on the other side, you have the roasted bean, that dark, aromatic, totally familiar final product that's achieved only after burning off that last bit of silver skin through roasting.
It's a pretty wild journey, isn't it? Going from a bright red, multi-layered, sticky fruit all the way to that magical cup of coffee. Which leaves me with one final provocative thought for you today. Next time you take a sip of your morning brew, knowing every single biological layer it took to get to your mug, will you be able to taste the cherry? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep staying curious.